In the songs, word, play, and letters part of OWL, the activities include songs, rhymes and poems, literacy skills activities, and predictable text books that you will read to the children. Much of this kind of thing is, I'm sure, very familiar to most teachers. We've always sung with children, we've always done rhymes, and we've read predictable textbooks. What is probably different for some of you than what you've done in the past is the literacy skills part that we've tucked in. These activities are designed to help children develop skills in phonological awareness, letter naming, print awareness, and understanding of word meanings. And these are just a small part in terms of the time that they take in the songs, word, play, and letters segment of the day. But they're very important, and we tuck these in into songs or some things we do after songs and poems. And sometimes there are standalone literacy skills activities that you will do just for themselves, but they're quite short. On the tape, on the tapes, I guess I should say, because you will see 4 different teachers in different parts of the country who are implementing OWL do one of their daily songs, wordplay, and letters sessions. One of the songs that you will see in each of the segments with each of the teachers is Down by the Bay. It's a favorite of teachers and of children. We won't show you the whole song as each teacher does it, but we'll focus on the unique verses that each teacher did with her children. And that illustrates the freedom that a teacher has in OWL to add new verses to songs and even to do songs that aren't in OWL provided for you but are favorites of yours. But there are many songs that are already favorites of yours, and with those you can do your own verses. Also, at the end of one teacher's segment with Down by the Bay, she reviews the animals that she had used in her verses and to highlight the rhyming words in each of the verses. And that's an example of how we tuck the literacy skills development into songs, often at the end in just a short review like that, to make that teaching just a little bit explicit, which is very helpful to children. Another song that you'll see on one of the segments is Bingo, one that's familiar to most of you, I'm sure. We will show you the regular version up through I, probably as the children are clapping, begin to clap the letters. And then we'll cut to the end so that you can go directly to the literacy skills activity that we've developed to piggyback on Bingo. We call that activity Change It or Rearrange It. And in that activity, teachers substitute other consonants for the B and make different words, wingo, ringo, whatever, and help the children read those. And then this teacher also goes on to the rearrange it part and uses letters to make smaller words such as no and go. So we wanted you to see how a teacher does that particular activity. The other thing you will see at the end of one of the segments, it is the 4th segment that you will see, is the teacher's transition from songs, wordplay, and letters to lunch time in her classroom. In some of these transitions, we have provided material in the curriculum for you to try again to support literacy skill development. So in this case, she used the uppercase letters and was holding up letters and asking children to leave to go wash their hands to get ready for lunch. If your name starts with D, you may stand up and go wash your hands. If your name starts with L or whatever it was. So you'll see her use a literacy skills activity as a transition from one time of day to the next. When it comes to the predictable textbooks, we'll also just show you a portion of the teacher's reading of a book. You've always done that, I'm sure, and you know how a teacher reads these books. What we want to make sure that we show you is at the end, a teacher often goes back to a couple of pages, rereads, picks out the rhyming words, and then asks children if they can think of other words that rhyme with those words. So we want you to see how we've done the literacy skills activities sort of in the context of predictable textbooks. Again, we have a variety of teachers. One is very experienced teacher, but new to OWL, and a second teacher is very experienced, but she's also the one you saw reading the stories, and she's dealing with 3-year-olds, so she does things a bit differently to adapt to them. Although she does a literacy skills activity that I wouldn't ordinarily think that you might do at the beginning of the year with 3-year-olds, and that is the alphabet letter clue game. But she's doing it with 3-year-olds, and they are doing well with it. And this is an example of how teachers really must use their own judgment. You can try out things and see if they work, and if they don't, you can wait a while with something or scaffold the experience. In other words, support it so that children get through it and enjoy it, although independently they wouldn't be able to do it by themselves. So we have, as I said, 4 clips, and you'll see how teachers put this part of the day together and how they can be creative in using what we provide for suggestions and a lot of guidance in the curriculum guide, but you also have room here to make these things your own and make the literacy skills activities work for your particular children and where they are in their skill development. You notice in the curriculum guide, we list the songs, we list the poems, we list the literacy skills, and then we have purposes, and then we say suggested sequence. So you don't need to feel like you must follow this, but if you're comfortable with it, and you've probably noticed, we try to vary and sort of alternate songs. We stick in the literacy skills activity kind of in the middle. It's very short, and then it's followed by a song that we think they'll like, and then a poem. So it's a variety, and then the I'm a Little Teapot is at the end, and that's the only stand-up. It's the only stand-up thing here, so we might think about that.
Well, I'll have to see how it goes tomorrow, because what I might have to do is, after interesting sounding words or after Down by the Bend, I have to put I'm a Little Teapot if they need to stand up and
You're
get some
right.
of their wiggles out. I have another question about this.
Yeah.
I noticed when I was looking at the lyrics in the back of the book that this is not the song, the way that we sing Down by the Bay usually. Is it okay if I use the song I already have, or do I have to stick with the one that's in the book?
That's a good question. You don't have to stick with the version that's in the book. There are different versions, and certainly as the year goes on, you'll notice even in the curriculum guides that different animals are used, because we don't want to do the same thing all year, because children aren't learning new animals and whatever, and they get bored. So you can start with whatever version
Okay.
you know the children might know and you feel most comfortable with, and then add as you go. The only thing that you'll want to watch as you use the curriculum guide, and it becomes more important in the later units, where the literacy skills activity, let's say it's rhyming words, or let's say it's interesting words. Some of those will be drawn from songs. In fact, there's Wheels on the Bus version later that's all animals and they make sounds.
Okay.
And then those sounds are picked up on as the interesting words. So buzz and cheep cheep. So if you're going to change the words for the song, then that literacy skills activity, you would have to change what you do there. So that's just something just to know it's coordinated in that way.
I was looking at comparing the word crash and Do you have a good way you can do that without getting the kids too loud or too quiet? Or what's a good way to
Okay,
just
so,
go?
well, first of all, let's back up here in terms of what's in the guide. And this is the interesting sounding words literacy skills activity. And you notice here that it says you can draw words from Oonga Boonga and Peter's Chair, and that's because those are the two books that you've been reading from. Now, here it suggests, you might do Oonga Boonga, meow, woof, grr, wah, bunka wunka. And then for Peter's Chair, it suggests muttered, fussing, crash, shh. So the critical thing here is these are suggestions, and you would I would never, in Unit 1 especially, try to do all those words.
Okay.
So let's suppose that you've decided that crash and shh are the two words from Peter's Chair you'd like to do, and maybe you don't want to do any from Oonga Boonga at all.
Okay.
That's just fine. So the first thing I would do is I would always have with me for songs where we're playing letters the books I'm drawing the words from, just because I like to remind them. I like to, even though we're going to focus on the sounds of the words, we need also to keep reminding children of the context in which the meaning of these. So I say, oh, we've been reading this book lately, and this book, and in this book there's some interesting sounding words, and I usually have to mark my pages so I'm not sitting there with the children saying,
Right.
so I have my little post-its to myself. One of the interesting sounding words was on this page where, his building crashed, and it says crash. Now, and I always say that's an interesting sounding word just because crash is something that's loud when it happens, and the word is kind of a crash. Now, how loud do you want them to say it? I usually say it's a loud word, and we want to say crash, but I don't like high-pitched, yelling in the classroom. So you want to, I think you shout it out, but it's not so loud that, the people next door hear. So that's how, and then I would say, now there's another interesting sounding word from this book, and actually it was on here too, right after that. So that was a loud word, crash. Down it came, and then his mother said, and that's a really soft word. Okay. So is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah. When you write these interesting sounding words, the important thing to remember is that you're really after the segmentation of the oral word, okay? So you're writing it down, but we don't want to lose that part of it. So what I would do is, and you have to do it quickly, is say, okay, crash, k. We need C for k, and then cra, r, r. I need R for and then cra, a. I'm going to use A to write a, and then crash, that last sound, I use S, H together, okay? Then that's crash. And then I would say to the children now, shh. We have shh to start with, so I need SH at the beginning. And then if we wanted to go on and on like shh, we would add more H's. And so we could say we make it very long, as if someone was saying shh. Okay. And then I would say to them, these two words are very interesting because with crash, we have shh at the end, and with shh, we have the same sound at the beginning, shh. So shh and crash. And then that's over and done with. There's just, you aren't expecting them to process it at a deep level. It's just a suggestion and calling their attention to something. And I probably would not put them as close together.
Okay.
My reach here in a chair, I would probably put maybe crash here, and then shh, a little, leave some space below it because it's pretty close together there. So, but the important thing, the thing that a lot of teachers miss is they say, oh, I'll write that word for you. I'll show you how it's written. And then they say C, R, A, S, H. And then sh is S, H, and then more H's. So see, there's absolutely no isolation of the sounds in that. So you don't want to take forever, but you do want to isolate sounds and then say, and we use an R to write that. Letters don't have sounds. They represent sounds. So anyway.
Is there a reason why you wrote them all capital?
Oh, yes. Crash is capitalized in the book.
Okay.
And then for Unit 1, I'm assuming that most children do not know many letter names. So given that the whole thing is pretty new to them in terms of a teacher saying crash, the signed isolation, so that when I say I use a C or I use an R, I don't want them to I don't want their mind to be on R. If they happen to know that, because I'm moving quickly here, and now I'm saying, we'll use an A for that, and they're still thinking R. So it's to decrease their, the unfamiliarity that I suspect is there. Now, in any of the print in the rooms, for example, their names on their cuppies and helpers charts, I would want it, like if the child's name is Kim, I would want the capital and the lowercase.
Okay.
Because, that's just a sight word basically, and a whole lot of other stuff isn't going on. Here, I don't want the distraction from what I'm trying to do. Later, with interesting sounding words, I would change to conventional, but not Unit 1. Okay.
10 little fingers.
Mm-hmm.
When it says underline the title of the poem, do you want me to underline the poem and then continue to underline all the words, or should I really be focusing on the movements?
Okay, great question. Again, in Unit 1, I really would prefer, I prefer not to use the print in teaching the poem
Okay.
because I find that if I focus on the words and underline, my voice, my phrasing begins to follow my pointing, and I've ruined the phrasing. So with 10 little fingers, let me see, do we have that? Do we
Yeah, it's
have
right
that?
over there.
Oh, okay, let's get that here, just so we can read it and get the phrasing of that.
Okay.
Because that conveys meaning and also is important for management, how you do these things, I think. And by management, I mean, I think children's engagement and attention should be high level. That's my overall goal
Okay.
with this and story time is if the children aren't engaged and aren't paying attention, everything's lost. So in Unit 1 especially, as my year is starting, that's my number one.
Right.
My number one goal is, are they enjoying this and are they looking here as opposed to
Right.
there? In terms of how to underline a title in Unit 1, it's going to be very different from later. But in Unit 1, I would just, 10 little fingers. So I'm kind of underlining as I say each word. Now later on in the units, you'll see some guidance in the curriculum guide
Okay.
that says, point to the T in 10 and say t. So t in little fingers. That's like Unit 4.
Okay.
So Unit 1, we're not going to do that. So here it's just a little bit of a print awareness. So 10 little fingers, okay? And then this is the second time that they've done this poem. The first time you did it completely orally.
Right.
So this is the first reference to the print at all. But even today or tomorrow when you do this for the second time, you're not going to deal with any more of the print. It's still, they're still learning this orally. And you have to do the motions and being very, very good eye contact with them. So
Okay.
that's all I would do with that.
All right.
Okay?
And we're also going to be introducing Diddle Diddle Dumpling. And it's an introduction, so it says I'm not going to look at the book. So before I turn the page, I need to recite the poem.
That's right. And you would say, again, see, it doesn't kind of say this. There's very little guidance here, but I would say to the children, you probably would too, have a new poem to teach you today.
Okay.
It's called Diddle Diddle Dumpling. And then you recite it, and then show the big book afterwards.
Okay, that's where I had some concern.
Okay.
What do you mean when it says go back and forth between the text and back and forth to the illustration?
Okay, let's do that. Okay. So keep in mind that, there we go, that you've already done the poem once orally.
Okay.
So now I go to the illustration and say, oh, here's John. Here's the son John that they're talking about in the poem. And, oh, you remember the text? The poem says, one shoe off, there's the shoe that's off. And one shoe on, there's the shoe that's on. And so, and then I might just say, because it's diddle, diddle, dumpling, my son John went to bed. Oh, the stockings, I knew there was something else. Oh, and here are the stockings with the text. So it's just a matter of finding in the illustrations what they have just heard orally.
Okay.
Okay? So
It's not making predictions. I'm not, when I turn the page, I'm not saying, what do you see here? Or tell me what you see.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because they would say a boy in bed. They might. Or they might say he's playing in bed, or he's jumping on his bed, or he's going to go to sleep. And the other thing is, you've already done the poem orally.
Right.
If I were going to use an illustration and have them predict what a text was going to say, I would do the illustration first.
Okay.
And then I would say, well, what do you see here? Sort of lead them as a little boy. And do you think he's going to go to bed, or is he awake in the morning? He's starting to get dressed, and we don't really know, really,
Right.
in the picture. And then say, okay. And so I would have them look at and help them see the individual things in the picture to help us decide or guess or predict what the poem might be about. But when we've already done the poem and they've already heard it,
Okay.
then we're not into predicting anything. It's in finding the details here that we heard when we said the poem.
Okay.
Okay?
And then the next song is I'm a Little Teapot.
Yes.
And my kids love that song, and they
Yes.
like doing motions. And I'm going to sing that with the motions. And really, you suggested earlier to maybe bring over a teapot.
I would. Well, today I saw a teacher do this, and it was probably the second or third time, my guess is, that her children had done this. So they all knew to get up, but they knew to strike the pose. But when she said, she had my handle, and what do we call this part? One child said, the pourer.
Okay.
And then she said, it's the spout. So what I would suggest is that you maybe even make a list of those things that are not in the program,
Okay.
that are really good. We all have those things that aren't in the program. And then on any day, look at what is suggested, and there might be something that you would want to substitute one of yours for something that's here. Other things you can stick in, because sometimes you can stick in more than what is here.
Right.
Depends. But you can feel very free to do that, and there are lots of things that aren't here. The only thing I would suggest that you look for and think about is the literacy skills activity sometimes
Okay.
uses words from a song or a poem that's here. So if you drop something out here as opposed to just add something you want, and the literacy skills activity uses those words, you will then have to use words from your song or poem. You sometimes can do that.
Right.
So just keep your eye on that. And then there are things that develop over time, like 5 green speckled frogs. In the first, quite a few times it's 5 green speckled frogs. And then actually in Unit 2, though, there's a day when there are 2 frogs next door in the pool that come to visit, because that's the Friends unit.
Okay.
So if they haven't done 5 green speckled frogs
Right.
very much, it's hard to then go to 7 frogs.
Right.
And then another time there's one that's sick and can't come out to play, and so that's some of the math that's built in. So you just kind of want to be alert to that sort of.
So I really need to read over everything and be prepared, because I'm seeing between interesting sounding words, and if you're happy, it even says in here, if you like to add verses using interesting sounding words. So if I would take out this,
Yes.
then they would
Yes.
really have
Yes,
an idea for this.
exactly.
Good morning, friends. It is time for songs, word plays, and letters. We're going to do some neat things today, and some of these songs you've heard already, and some of them are new. The first thing we're going to sing is Down by the Bay. I bet some of you have heard that before.
Yeah.
You've heard that. It's about where some watermelons grow. All right, so if you know it, you're going to sing with me, okay? And I'm going to put some funny creatures on here and see if you can remember the song. Ready? Down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say. Have you ever seen a whale with a polka dot tail? Down by the bay, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say. Have you ever seen a snake baking a cake? Down by the bay, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say. Have you ever seen a bear combing his hair? Down by the bay. Let's get our hands ready for open shut then. Get it in front of you. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Open shut then, open shut then. Give a little clap, clap, clap. Open shut then, open shut then. Put them in your lap, lap, lap. Here we go. Creep them, slowly creep them right up to your chin. Open up your little mouth, but do not let them in. What's this title? Peter's Chair. Let's start with Peter's Chair. And there's some interesting sounding words or funny sounding words. Let's see if I found one. Here it is. This sounds kind of different, kind of funny. It's the word crash. let's use our hands and make the building go crash.
Crash.
And although you are right, there was our next interesting sounding word, which is shh. Let's try it again. All right, now we're going to write these interesting sounding words, the word crash and shh. All right, we're going to write them up here. I'm going to use my marker and on the paper. C,
C.
R,
R.
R,
A.
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 I like the way you're going with me. S, A. And that word says crash. And we're going to do another interesting sounding word. And we're going to do the second one, which is what?
Be quiet, guys.
All right, ready? The first sound is sh, which is, let's do that again. Sh, which is S. I'll make this one bigger. And H. And then to make it go,
Guys.
we need to add some more H's. So let's add another one. And since we go, shh, we're going to add another one. And we could keep going and going because you could say shh
Be quiet, guys.
all the time. Nehemiah, you're not going to say shh with us. Can you do shh?
No.
All right, well, maybe you can do another word. Okay, now let's look at these words. There's something that's to say about these words. Crash ends with the sound of shh.
Right.
And shh begins with the sound of shh.
And like that one.
Very good. Now let's try to see if we can make crash a little bit louder and shh a little bit quieter, okay? So let's get our hands ready to do crash a little bit louder. Ready? Crash! Now let's make it shh. Quiet. Ready? Thank you, Nehemiah. Very good. All right, very good. I need you to get a handle on one hand, and I need you to do a spout on the other hand. And you're going to fill yourself up with some tea. We're going to pretend we're going to fill some up with some tea. And we're getting ready to sing the I'm a Little Teapot. And the spout, which is this hand that you have up, is where you pour things out of. Have you heard this song before?
No.
Well, sing it with me. And Nehemiah, you can get your spout up here and your handle here. You ready? Oh, look at all these great teapots. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When I get all steamed up, hear me shout. Just tip me over and pour me out. The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again. Now you ready? When I point to the itsy bitsy spider, let me hear you. Itsy bitsy spider. Okay. Climb that spout.
Itsy bitsy spider.
Climb that spout.
Itsy bitsy spider.
Climb that spout.
Itsy bitsy spider.
Keep on climbing. Keep on climbing. Climb that spout.
Itsy bitsy spider.
Good. We're going to do 2 more poems, and then we're going to do another song where we can move. All right. Let's look at the poem. It's called 10 Little Fingers. Say it with me. 10 little fingers. And I'm going to sit down, and you're going to get your hands up, and we're going to say it together. You ready?
Yeah.
I have 10 little fingers, and they all belong to me. I can make them do things. Would you like to see? I can shut them up tight. I can open them up wide. Or put them together. Or make them high. I can make them jump high. I can make them jump low. Or I can fold them quietly and hold them just so. Good job. All right, I like the way you did the poem with me, and you use your fingers to do the different movements. All right, here is diddle diddle dumpling and my son John. I'm gonna say it first, you're gonna listen before we look to see what he looks like. Diddle diddle dumpling, my son John went to bed with his stockings on. One shoe off and one shoe on. Diddle diddle dumpling, my son John. You ready to see John? All those ready to see John. And here he is. There he is. And let's look at John. He's getting ready for bed. He's in his pajamas. And here's the one shoe. And it is off, but this shoe is on. And he also has on stockings. So let's try it again. Now we see what our friend John looks like.
No.
You ready?
No, Felicia.
Okay, crisscross thing, Alicia. Say it with me, Alicia. Ready? Diddle diddle dumpling, my son John went to bed with his stockings on. One shoe off and one shoe on. Diddle diddle dumpling, my son John. By looking at your shoes, you're all not going to bed because all of you have both of your shoes on. Both of your shoes on, so you're not ready for bed like John. But you got both your shoes on. All right, let's get ready to do one more song. And this one we're going to stand up because we're going to sing If You're Happy and You Know It. And you can do this song sitting down or standing up, but we're going to keep getting our wiggles out and do it standing up. And I know that you know this song. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, and your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Come on, Kyra. If you're silly and you know it, say oonga boonga. Ready?
Oonga boonga.
If you're silly and you know it, say oonga boonga. If you're silly and you know it, and your face will surely show it. If you're silly and you know it, oonga boonga. Now, if you're sad like Baby Louise, you might cry. Wah, wah. If you're sad and you know it, cry wah, wah. If you're sad and you know it, cry wah, wah. If you're sad and you know it, and your face will surely show it. If you're sad and you know it, cry wah, wah. All those sad faces. All right, now, if you have a friend that's being noisy, like Peter was when he knocked the building down, you're going to say what? Shh. If your friend's being noisy, say shh. I'll say it with us. If your friend's being noisy, say shh. If your friend's being noisy, and he really, really knows it. If your friend's being noisy, say shh. Let's go sit down. Since you're being quiet. Thank you for singing with me. Give yourself a thumbs up. Oh, and you can clap, Maddie. Give it up, Maddie. All right. I really like this part of the day because you can really have fun. You know, you can sing, and that's always fun for kids. But they're still learning. It's still a good instructional time. As I try to start with the sequence, which is always my goal. And I was going through the sequence. I did the felt board, and they seemed really engaged with the felt board down by the bay.
Felt pieces were beautiful.
Thank
and did you see their faces?
Yes, they were really engaged, and they wanted to know what was coming next.
Yes.
And that was really exciting.
Yes.
Even they tried to peek around the board.
Especially Aldo
he was
peeking around the board. Yeah.
But, you know, and when I just turned it a little bit, that was just enough just to
Yes.
let them know, hey, you know, let's just wait and see. But
Yes.
they're real into that. And then open shut them, kind of guiding them through the song instead of just singing it really quickly, open shut them.
Right.
And then kind of taking a break and let them know when the surprise is coming.
Yes.
And easing into it instead of just singing it. You have to, you know, you can sing a song or you can sing a song as in adding things into it, and they seem to really enjoy it.
Well, I don't know whether you're aware of yourself, but you have such engagement with the children, and you are watching them so carefully. And they are right with you, and you with them. But your pacing was really good, and it changed throughout a bit. But you knew exactly where they were, and you know when you could go like that fast, and then so they were right with you.
And that's something that I've had to work on because, you know, you could sing very fast and you're done and the kids are still with the pace movement.
Yes.
So I really try to watch them to make sure they're doing at least
Yes.
a movement or one movement behind me. So they can catch on, because that's how they learn
Sure.
the songs.
Sure.
Then we moved on to interesting sounding words, which was very difficult, to be perfectly honest with me. Perfectly honest with you,
Uh-huh.
that was difficult for me, because typically what I've done up until this curriculum, if I would write crash, I would do C and even have the kids repeat C, R, have the kids repeat R, and so on,
Mm-hmm.
and then repeat the word, because I really want them to learn those letters.
The letter names. You
The
use
letter
it as a
names.
letter name
Letter name,
activity.
yes.
Okay.
And this activity was really pushing me to use the sounds. And that's different than what I'm used to. So that's probably something that I'm going to have to keep working with, so I feel more
And that's hard
comfortable.
for everybody. I'm finding that it's really very new, because most people, when they have done writing, they want to demonstrate the left to right progression, you know, when you write a word, and then the letter names, and that letters go together and make words. But the whole area, or the idea of, well, why did we pick this letter?
Right, right.
You know, well, it's because of the sound. That has been left out. So people were really, I could tell, it was so interesting, both your behavior and also the children's, because you'd done a couple of songs, and I guess songs before that, hadn't you?
Right.
And then you got up, you showed the books first and went through that. Oh, I thought the way you did crash, and that was wonderful. To really get them engaged in those words and how they sounded, so that you did a really great job then. And then you got up and you said, I'm going to write them down. And the children's behavior at that point was fascinating, because they were very attentive. You know, you wrote the words, you sounded out, and you wrote, and it didn't, I don't know how long that took, maybe a minute and a half,
Not long.
not very long enough that, and I didn't know when you first showed both books, and you did the Oonga Boonga orally, but in the curriculum guide, you know, there are several words from both books, and then you chose just to do those two, and that was enough, because it's very new for the children. I'm sure that the children, after that little lesson, they certainly aren't going to be able to think of crash as, or, you know, no way.
No.
So it's one of those things where they are so far from being ready to do this in any independent way.
Right.
But this is an area that experience really matters. So it's just very gradually, little bit at a time, tucked in. And 4 months from now, you'll be surprised how sensitive they, and some of them are starting to sound out.
Right.
And the other thing that starts to happen is you have no sooner said k, you know, the sound segmentation, than the kids are saying K or C. So they start calling out the letters,
Right.
because they've gotten the idea here of what letters are for. They represent sounds. So, but it's very gradual, and you do not want to do too much at the beginning.
I was noticing when I was looking at the next unit that you really do build on it. I think I saw another activity where you do it a little bit more, and so it's not like we're just introducing this now and leaving it alone. We're going to
No.
keep building on it as
You
we
keep
go
building.
along.
You keep building. Right, and then in their individual, when you work with them individually with their writing, if a child asks you, if they, for example, want to label a picture, let's say it's mommy, and they want to write that word themselves, well, they
Right.
haven't a clue as to how to spell it. So there again, instead of writing on a paper for them to copy, or just saying, well, M-O-M-M-Y, you say, okay, mommy, well, we'd use an M for so right.
Right.
So on an individual level, you start doing it, and you'll be surprised, March, April, the skill level. But you were perfect this morning in terms of just that little bit, because they were very attentive. But if you overdo it,
Right.
and it is something that's a little out of range for them knowing what to do, they're not going to attend. There's a lot of talk these days about social regulation,
Right.
children learning to regulate themselves. I like songs, wordplay, and letters. One of my favorite parts of the day, because the teacher, I think, has a lot of control over when you do things, how you do things,
Right.
the pace of things, what you put in, and you can really help children
Right.
regulate. And that little agreement with Maddie that would clap at the end. But you see, she wouldn't have been able to do that had there been a boring 20 minutes.
Right.
You can't ask a child to do that.
Right.
But by asking her to do it, and then providing programming that kept her occupied,
Right.
she was able to do it. But for her to be able to regulate herself in terms of an expectation
Right.
was wonderful. And what is it, the 4th week of school?
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, the overall thing with songs, wordplay, and letters to be successful is the teacher has to be prepared.
You have to be prepared.
because
Yes.
you first of all need to know the songs.
Yes.
Because you might think maybe the first day you opened up and knew Open Shut Them, but you didn't know what variation it might have.
Right.
And also you don't know why or what they're using the book for. So it's real important for teachers to be prepared.
Yes.
So that was something I'm
Yes.
going to continue, but also make it their own, just like story time.
Yes. And what was interesting was, I know how much you prepared
Yeah.
for today and how
Yeah.
much you practiced.
Right.
But it was so interesting watching you because it looked so easy.
Right.
And that's what I do find with, and it looked easy in a number of ways. You enjoyed it
Oh,
because you were
yes.
so prepared. You were very flexible. You could put things in, move things around because you knew so well what you
Right.
had at hand.
Right.
And then those pieces you controlled.
Right.
And you could really make it work for the children and for you.
Right.
So the better you're prepared, I think also the more flexible you can be.
Right, you're right. Because you
So
feel more comfortable. So you feel like you
yes.
can, I don't have to worry about sticking exactly
No.
because I know that I will remember to get back to that
Right.
or I'll remember what part to do.
That's
So
right.
I'm
Yeah.
very excited about that.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be one of my favorite parts of the day.
So now we're going to talk about the songs word playing letters, and I know in your schedule, like in all schools, you get assigned certain times for snack and outside play. You have story time, and then you go right into songs word playing letters. So you have two sit-down group things back to back, and you have 3-year-olds. So you're probably having to adapt and adjust a little bit. Maybe story time is a little shorter than it would be if you
Some days.
not some days. Depends.
And even the list of songs, word playing letters that I have scheduled today, I'm going to see where children are, and I have a predictable book. But if I don't feel that the children are ready for that or need that right then I'm going to do a stand-up activity.
Yeah.
So, and that's right in the middle. So to get them up, moving around a little bit, and then settle them back down. With a
And what's the predictable text book?
Time for bed.
Okay. Now that also is a Unit 1 book, and how many
Yes.
times have they heard that?
Probably twice.
Okay, so this
Just
will be a
twice.
third time. So it's really pretty new to them.
It is, and I'll leave some room for them to chime in with the rhyming words, and I think they probably will catch a few, but
But not like a
as
4-year-old
many.
group that has heard it
Right.
5 times
Right.
already.
Right.
Okay, all right. Now let's just take a look at what you have here, and you're starting with Open Shut Them. And then you're going to do I Have 10 Little Fingers. So these are two poems, basically.
Right.
Open Shut Them is kind of a song, but that both have hand motions. So are they with you on those, or do you have children who really have to see you and process, and the pace has to be?
the majority are actually with me. But I do slow down, and I'm enunciating really clearly because they're still learning the words. So I do. Again, pause for the rhyming words too.
Okay.
In there, so they can chime
Okay.
in. But I also like to do these at the very beginning because we'll just be coming in from outside, so it just settles them down a little bit, gets them oriented on me,
And gives them something to do with their hands
Right.
besides fiddle with
Right.
their neighbors. Okay. All right. And you have, If You're Happy and You Know It. Okay. And will you be doing that as a sit down, or will they stand?
Sit down. We'll
Okay.
sit down.
All right. And then Time for Bed next, if you think
Right.
they can.
Right.
Okay. 5 Green
then-
Speckled Frogs. Okay. Now with the 5 Green Speckled Frogs, I've seen you do this before, and when I saw you do it, you told children you were ready to do 5 Green Speckled Frogs, and then you said, okay, let's make sure we have our 5 frogs, and so they counted them with you, and then you put your pool and your log up, and then when you cleaned up off of the board,
Right, the frogs are in the pool, so then I'm able to take them off the board and count them, and the children join
Okay.
with me as I
Great.
do that too.
Wonderful. So that not only gets some math in, but it gives children something to do while you're setting up.
Right.
Because
Taking down.
I've seen you do songs word playing letters before, and you have a very smooth. It's all orchestrated so that even when you're turned around getting the materials for the next thing, you're telling children what you're doing. So, and it really helps them attend. And you're all planned. It's all organized so well. I'm sure it is today too.
Well, even getting transitions in between the two songs, or like for If You're Happy and You Know It, going into Time for Bed, I'm going to do If You're Sleepy and You Know It, and then go into Time for Bed, which is all about all these different animals. So there's some connection that leads into the next song or book
Right.
or activity.
Yes. Okay. Now, the literacy activity is the alphabet letter clue game.
Right.
And these are 3-year-olds, and I was a little surprised that you attempted it. So, have they done it a couple of times?
We've probably
before?
done it 3 times
Okay.
with this particular group. And I was even a little hesitant the first time I was doing it. I wanted to try it out, see how they would react, how attentive they would be. And the first time they were saying, "Oh, it looks like an umbrella," or "That's the number 1." Or, so they weren't saying letters as I was writing the different
I
strokes.
thought you were trying to picture. Yeah.
But they've started to catch on. Some of the children have started to catch on, and then actually I did this yesterday with a group, and following that we had a few minutes before lunchtime, so we were sitting out at the table, and 2 of the children started playing this game. Said, I'm going to write a line, I'm going to draw.
So they had paper markers?
So they had paper markers, yes. And this child who typically writes her name with this zigzag, she drew this beautiful E, and that was one of the letters that I had demonstrated during the activity. So it was just a nice carryover, and so I even though I did it yesterday, I feel as if I can do it again, that they'd be attentive.
Did you save
with
those
different
papers?
letters. I did. I actually have them here.
Okay.
This is the E.
This is the E.
So, and the order of the lines was done in the correct order. So she started at the top, drew this vertical line down, went to this first line, and then this was her second line right here, and then down here, and then I think she just made it a little
They always
fancy.
fill in, yeah. And this was Maria?
This Maria.
Because Maria doesn't have an E in her name. So this was the letter you used, and she picked right up on it.
And then this one is harder to see because she colored it in afterwards, but I had done an O first and then said, I'm not quite done, and then I made a little line here to make a Q, and she did this, and then there was a teacher at the table with her, and she said, oh, it's an O, and Maria just kept on going, and she wrote a line right here and made a Q. So she did the 2 of the
And
letters.
she colored it in.
And colored it in.
And then what is
That's her
this?
name,
Maria,
actually.
with all the zigzags, yeah. An M, an extended M. Yeah, and she's what, 3 and 5 or 6
She's
months?
3.5.
Yeah, she's little. Oh, wow.
This was what
Benet.
Atalanta had written, actually. Benet wasn't in the group, but I had
Oh.
done another literacy activity yesterday with words that begin with this the same sound as button, so with the B, the beginning. And so I think she just kind of, Benet was one of the words that we came up with, and so she wanted to write Benet.
So she knew that Benet's name started
She
with
knew.
B. When I was talking with her yesterday, she was, we were naming pictures, and then we'd say the word, and then she'd say B. Like she was isolating, she was naming the letter that it started with, so looks like she's doing the same here.
We have name rings, so I then pulled them off. Actually, they were on the table already, so we found Benet's name, and then she copied it. And she, the names are written conventionally, so the lowercase letters were there. And I think, I don't know for sure, but I think she wasn't real happy with how this looked with this part of her name down here, so she wrote it again.
Oh, so that's the second time. Much
And it's
smaller and
smaller
really
and-
organized.
Organized differently.
That's interesting. Now she's one of your oldest ones,
Yes,
isn't she?
she's close to
about
4.
4 years or 3 years and 10 months or so. Yeah. But still, she's not even 4 years old. And they're writing.
Right.
Okay.
That's
And
another
there's-
one of the Atalantas.
uh-huh.
She actually wanted to write Daviana's name next, so she wrote this line here, and then she looked at it and said, that's a P. And then, because she had just done this one,
Yes.
she added this other little curved
make it
line
a
to make a
B.
B. And then just
Did
wanted
the D.
to do it again. and-
Isn't that interesting? So she didn't quite go to the end of the vertical to make a D, and so she realized it was a P. She's got a lot of alphabet knowledge. I
Yes,
noticed that
yes.
yesterday.
Yes.
And
And, then,
then-
she did end up writing Daviana's name
Okay.
here. So
Okay. But that's so interesting how you do something in a small group that's focused, and then there's opportunity for the children to practice or pick up on it individually. So it's great. So it'll be interesting to see how they guess today.
Right.
What letters are you using today?
R and D and G.
Okay. You think you can actually do 3?
I have the two other times.
Okay.
So and if not, I'll do 2
One.
of them
That's
or
not-
one.
Okay. So the
the rest of what you have for songs, wordplay, and letters you have down by the bay.
Right.
With your fun and board pieces. They love that, I'm sure. It reminds me of when Maria and I was here the last time, and you were reading the fireman book, and it talked about the firemen in their bay, and she broke out into the song of Down by the Bay. It was really...
So we had to sing a verse, and then we were able to get right back into
Right,
the book.
right. Have you talked to her at all? I mean, bay is an interesting word in its meaning, so I don't know if she could sort out those meanings. Bay, where the water is, and then a different kind of
I
meaning.
think in that
bay.
particular book that we were reading that day, the bay is not pictured.
Oh,
So as
okay.
I put the flannel pieces up, I generally say something or have said something
About the
before.
water,
So
yeah. Anything else you'd want to let someone know who's going to be watching you do this with the children?
all of these are taken from Unit 1. So even though this is an in-between week, it doesn't follow one of the days of the week exactly. So I've pulled different activities and songs and poems from Unit 1, but I wanted to continue in the same format.
Right.
And
what you're doing also is you're continuing the kinds of learning, the literacy learning. So you're carrying it over and then repeating some of the things that I'm sure, certainly with your 3-year-olds. And probably the first, you started implementing the second week of school here.
Right.
You had 3 days of a short week, and then that very next week you started, which is early. I mean, I know here they like to get started because they feel that the children settle in if there's something to do. But I suspect that maybe those early weeks you might not have done some things, and so they're not sick and tired of this
Right,
by now
no,
by
they're
any
not.
means.
They're
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
Okay. And I think it probably was a little bit shorter. I probably wasn't doing 2 literacy activities those first 2 weeks anyway. And then there's just supplemental songs and poems that I'll use too. Open, shut them, open, shut them, give a little clap. Open, shut them, put them in your lap. Now creep them, crawl them, right up to your chin. Open wide your little mouth, but do not let them in. Let's sing the second verse too. Open, shut them, give a little clap. Open, shut them, put them in your lap. Now creep them, crawl them, right up to your nose. Creep them, crawl them, right down to your toes. Toes and nose rhyme, don't they? We'll sing the third verse too. One last verse. Open, shut them, give a little clap. Open, shut them, put them in your lap. Now creep them, crawl them, right up to your cheeks. Cover up your little eyes and give a little peek. Boom. Okay, now we'll use our hands again with our fingers. So I have 10 little fingers, and they all belong to me. I can make them do things. Would you like to see?
Yeah.
I can open them wide. I can shut them up tight. I can put them together and put them out of sight. I can jump them up high. I can jump them down low. I can fold them together and hold them just so. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to use our hands to do some clapping and some other motions too. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If we're sad, we're going to cry a little bit. If we're sad and you know it, we can cry. If you're sad and you know it, you can cry. If you're sad and you know know it and you really want to show it. If you're sad and you know it, you can cry. This time, we're going to act surprised about something. If you're surprised and you know it, make a surprise face. If you're surprised and you know it, make a surprise face. If you're surprised and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're surprised and you know it, make a surprise face. And this is the last verse we'll sing. If you're sleepy and you know it, you can yawn. If you're sleepy and you know it, you can yawn. If you're sleepy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're sleepy and you know it, you can yawn. Well, I have some animals that are pretty sleepy in this book that's called Time for Bed. These animals are getting ready to go to bed and to go to sleep. So you can help me say the names of the animals if you recognize them. It's time for bed, little mouse, little mouse. Darkness is falling all over the house. It's time for bed, little goose, little goose. The stars are out and on. It's a bird similar to a duck, but it has a much longer neck. Right. It is a goose. That's the mother goose, right? And that's the baby, the little gosling. It's time for bed, little cat, so snuggle and tight. That's right, just like that. It's time for bed, little calf, little calf. What happened today that made you laugh? Yes, it is a cow. A young cow is called a calf. And that's probably the mother. And it's time for bed, little foal, little foal. I'll whisper a secret, but don't tell a soul. That is, those are both horses, and a young horse is called a foal.
The baby horse.
That's right, Davion. It's time for bed, little fish, little fish. So hold your breath and make a wish. Osagi, go ahead and sit back down on your bottom. It's time for bed, little sheep, little sheep. The whole wide world is going to
Sleep.
It's time to sleep, little bird, little bird. So close your eyes, not another word. It's time to sleep, little bee, little bee. Yes, I love you, and you love me. Oh, it's time to sleep, little snake, little snake. Good gracious me, you're still awake. It's time to sleep, little pup, little pup. If you don't sleep soon, the sun will be up. It's time to sleep, little dear, little dear. The very last kiss is almost here. Oh, now we have a child. The stars on high are shining bright. Sweet dreams, my darling. Sleep well. There are stars in the pillow. Good night. And she's fallen asleep on that pillow with the stars on the pillowcase. Well, one animal we didn't read about in that book is a frog. And this next song that we're going to sing is about 5 frogs. And they're not going to sleep. They're very much awake. There's our cool pool of water. And there's the log that has those spots on it, the speckles on it. And we need 5 frogs to put on that log. So let's find out if we have 5. There's 1,
2,
3, 4, and we need 5. How many more do I need?
5.
We have 5. We need 5 altogether. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I think there's one more behind the board. It just got misplaced. So there's one more. Now we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. So we have 5 green and speckled frogs sat on a speckled log, eating some most delicious plug. Yum, yum. Oh, Saki said. One jumped into septic. jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool. Then there were 1, 2, 3, 4 green speckled frogs. Gulp, gulp. One green and speckled frog sat on a speckled log, eating some most delicious bugs. Yum, yum. He jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool. Then there were no more green speckled frogs. Gulp, gulp. Well, do you think we have 5 down there?
Yeah. And water.
Probably. Let's double check, just in case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we do have 5. They all 5 of those frogs had jumped into the pool. Now, I'm actually going, it probably is cool because they were sitting on the log and they got very hot. Remember that game we've played where I write down a line and you try to guess what letter is? We'll play that again today. Jeremiah, now scoot back to the tape so that Osagi can see. There you go. Well, I might be a J. Let's see, my first line is going to be a straight vertical line just like that. Anybody have any ideas what letter it might be? You think it might be a J? What letter did you say, Daviana?
J.
You think it might be a J too? Anybody have any other ideas?
I got J. No, they
Oh, Atalanta thinks it might be the letter A. So let me write the next line so you can see if it's the letter you just guessed. It's a curved line. Comes around from the top of the line.
P.
Right now it's a P, but I'm not done. I have one more line to write. Watch this. I'm going to go right here, Osagi, right in that space where that curved line met, and then make a diagonal line. The letter R. It's an R. Okay, let me erase the R, and I'll write another. I'm using an eraser. This is a special kind of marker that allows you to erase the marks from the whiteboard. Okay, this next letter starts the same way as an R. It starts with a straight vertical line just like that. So it could be an R, it could be a P, right? Because we just saw P. You think it might be a J? Well, let me write the next line. This letter has just 2 lines. It's a curved line that starts at the top and goes around and then all the way down to the bottom. The letter D.
D for Devon.
The D for Devon, that's right. Okay, well, you did great there. We'll save that. We'll play it another day with some more letters because you're so good
How you do that?
at guessing those letters.
What do you do?
Now we're going to sing one more song before we have snack. And this is one of our favorite songs about some of those real silly animals. And sometimes we sing with the music from the tape recorder. And today we're just going to sing it without that. So I have a house that's right there. And there's a big garden growing near this house.
Oh, it's below.
That's okay. That's all right, Osagi. There's watermelon growing in that garden. And then here's some water. It's not a pool of water like in the 5 Grown Speckled Frogs. This is a bay. And then we'll sing about some of these animals that visit it. So we have down by the bay where the watermelons grow. Back to my home I dare not go. For if I do, my mother will say, did you ever see a goose kissing a moose down by the bay? Down by the bay, where the watermelons grow. Back to my home, I dare not go. For if I do, my mother will say, did you ever see llama eating his pajamas down by the bay? There we go. So those are a lot of silly animals. We had a
That's
goose
a fish.
kissing a moose, and a whale with a polka dotted tail, and a fly wearing a tie. Fly and tie rhyme, don't they? And bear combing his hair, and the llama eating some pajamas.
Okay, so songs we're playing letters. They seemed also very engaged there. So do you want to
go through the list of things that you had planned
Sure.
and just comment? I think you kept things in
I did.
order. Didn't have
I
to change
kept it
anything.
exactly as planned, and even sang more than one verse of "Open Shut Them" at the very beginning, and I could just watch their enjoyment, and they chimed in so much. They were really singing
They were.
along to
I
that
had never heard those
very
other two
well.
verses of Chin and Nose and
Nose and Toes.
Nose and Toes. Yeah, it was great. And you commented, "Oh, those words rhyme." So that was wonderful. Yeah.
And then I have 10 Little Fingers. Was good, and I actually was surprised there too. We've done that probably 5 times, but I was surprised at how familiar with the language they were in that
And the
poem.
actions, they were basically with you. And you did pause at the end of each action so that they could make sure everyone did it, but most of them were really with you on that. Okay, and then if you're happy.
If you're happy and you know it. So we did. There might have been one too many emotions there that we did, but
The surprise was great. Their expressions were really great.
and then that just led pretty well into Time for Bed, and I thought they did very well during that story, and the comments about, oh, that's a horse, but when it's called a foal, and that's a cow, and they said that's a calf, and it's just a perfect opportunity to say, oh, it is a cow, it is, and it's a young cow, it's called a baby calf,
Yes.
and so, and then just a little aside, I've put some puzzles on the shelf with horses and cows and young horses and cows, so we can talk about those in different situations
That's
too,
right.
and not just
Get the same
not just the book.
vocabulary. And, yes, great.
So that
And then Five
that was
Speckled
good.
Frogs, as always.
And they were right there with that song and counting along as I put the frogs up on the log. And
Was one child a little ahead of you in the counting? And then, because it seemed like your voice raised went with like 3, 4, 5. Was there one child who was a little bit ahead? Or
could have been Atlanta. I'm not sure. Osagi sometimes goes a little bit faster too, and then Daviana wasn't. She doesn't always speak up, so maybe I was trying to slow it down for her.
But it was interesting how you handled that, because often children, when you say "count with me,"
Okay, they
they
just
start
rattle.
rattling off, and then when you're actually enumerating objects, you're actually going slower than you would if you were saying to the kids, "Oh, let's just count till 10," and you did it by rote. So rather than stop and say, "Oh, but wait a minute, we all have to do this together," you just you got it, you got them with you just by using your voice. You raised it a bit, so they knew where to come in, and then they were all by 4 and 5, I think, all right with you. So. Okay, and the alphabet letter clue game. They know a lot of letters.
They do. They certainly identify the letter once it's written, and there. I don't think we had any. And that's an umbrella, or that type
None.
of response
None
today.
of
I think it
that
was
today.
all letters that they were guessing. Jeremiah was guessing a J because that's the first letter in his name, obviously. So he really wanted me to write a J.
Yes.
So I do regret that I didn't write a J beside the first line
I was
that
going to ask you
that I
about
wrote.
that. And it's so interesting with him because you had a vertical line, and of course in a J we do have, but what we know is it's all one stroke to do the curve. But in a child's mind, he might have separated the vertical part
Then
from
I
the
could have
curved part.
changed it into a J.
So it was interesting, and I think it's the first time I've ever heard a child with that activity say J when it's just, but they don't know what the strokes are. And of course a child, sometimes their motor skill is such that they're doing the straight line, we've seen it dozens of times, and then they have to make almost a straight line, so they have 2 different lines for that, for the J. So, and he's only 3, and so probably in his mind, a J, the first
It does start that way.
is like that. So, but you can go back over. You can do maybe a J
I'll
again
do it
tomorrow.
next time.
He was pretty adamant, wasn't he? Yeah. Okay. The other thing I was going to ask is, with 4-year-olds, it's probably a good idea when they give a guess, when they make a guess, whatever it is, that's not in your mind,
to say, oh, I know what you're thinking, and then do their letter over here. And I know, I've seen you do that when you taught 4s and 5s last year, and today I noticed you didn't. My guess is these are 3s and you want to keep moving along. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I was gonna say-
And we'll get there eventually. I think with this group, I think they're attentive enough to this activity that they'll be able to handle that. And they're watching so carefully that they want to know what the J really looks like if this is not going to be the J. So I'd like to do that, but I don't think
It's only your
I
third
need
time.
to do it yet.
No, yeah, they're so with you. You don't want to do too much to make them.
Interruption.
What you plan to do
Okay.
today for your songs, word play, and letters?
We will do 5 green and speckled frogs.
Now, have they done
With
that a
the-
number of times?
Yes, yes. And we do the rhyming parts
Okay.
after.
Okay, good. So
After
you'll
that to
loop
get the
back a
rhymes
bit.
right.
Okay. Now, when you do that part, will you then also ask them if they can think of other words, or are you just going to review the rhyming words from the song?
Probably just review the rhyming
Okay.
parts
Okay.
this
Okay,
time.
that's fine. Just wondered where you were with
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
Okay.
They're beginning to catch on to the process of rhyming, but they're still kind of a little shaky, so.
You know what? I think it's actually a very long time between the point where they recognize words they hear and when they can generate. It's always surprised me how long a period of time it is. It's quite long, and then that starts, and then it's just a flood after a certain point. But that period between knowing when they
Right.
hear it and doing it is very. Has
Because-
that been your experience
yes,
too?
Yes, and also we know that if we say, give me a word that rhymes with tree, they might say sleedy or whatever, but we say, okay, it is.
Yeah,
It
good
might
for
not be
you.
an actual word,
Good for you.
but they're hearing the e,
Right,
e, e.
right.
So I thought we'd do it like
absolutely,
that,
the
just to
nonsense.
keep them
Yes,
going.
and in fact, when it comes to paying attention to the sounds, we're asking them to move away from meaning anyway. Because if you say, okay, what else rhymes with cake and bake, and they say lake, rake, well, that has nothing to do. So in a way, the nonsense words they come up with are really great because it means they've moved away from meaning. So it's terrific.
So they're getting better with
Yeah,
it when we
good,
do it that way.
good, yeah.
And we don't necessarily have to focus on a word
Sure.
as a sound.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So-
Okay.
After that, we will do the word clue,
Okay.
but we're going to use the picture cards.
Okay. So what clues do you? Oh, well, I see marble. The pictures
Yes,
of marbles.
we
Okay.
have the pictures
Okay.
here. And we're doing marbles, kite, shrubs, escalator, palace, flashlight, overalls, and I think the other one is harmonica and high chair.
Now, will they be able to do that many, you think, in a session?
I don't know. I'm going to do going to try to do as many as
Okay.
possible.
You can always stop.
Right. If I see them getting antsy, I'm just
Sure.
going to stop.
Sure.
But I've known when I did it before, they wanted more words.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
Today, however, we don't know, so we'll just play it by ear. And
That's right.
the best we can
That's
do
right.
there.
Okay. And in terms
Yeah.
of the clues you give, have you found the teacher's guide helpful?
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes, because many of the words there are defined and they have little captions next
Okay,
to it, so we
okay.
can use that.
Okay. All right.
In fact, I did use it for some of these right here.
Great. Okay.
The pictures are great.
I think they are too. Now, I don't know what your experience has been, as you've done this part of OWL, and whether you get your plan and you think this is a sequence, and then midstream you drop something, add something, change the order, and feel free to do that.
Okay,
Okay.
because I said sometimes I can't, I can't put all of the things, I can't work all of the things in that period of time
Right.
because I see that they are getting jumpy or whatever, so I might
Yes.
have to cut some of the things
Yes.
out, but if so, I was thinking maybe like during the day we could do it, you lining up and doing some of the
Sure.
word plays or
Sure.
getting ready to go to the bathroom.
Sure. All those
So
times.
we'll get it in
Sure.
as soon as
Right. And
doing
I
that,
think
so.
probably in a lot of the days for songs, word play, and letters, I put more than someone might be able to do in 20 minutes. But I know in some places, just because of the schedule, maybe they really need to have 25 minutes. And in one place, although I think it's too long, it's more like 30. So I tried to put more in, knowing that people would use their own common sense and rearrange it, and particularly early in the year. Sometimes 15 minutes is
is enough.
long enough.
Long is enough.
Yes, and then as the year goes on, they
Right.
can do more. So that sounds
So then
good.
we figure like different aspects of the day we could kind of
That's
throw
a great
one of
idea.
these things
It's a great
to
idea.
do, because I noticed even when they were doing little centers, large centers this morning, they were doing some of the things that we did yesterday, singing Down by the Bay and the other things, and they were just doing, so they're learning and they're repeating
Right.
some of the things that we've done.
Yeah, to be able to.
So,
That's great.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes, and then we get to talk afterwards and
Afterwards.
find out why you changed what you did.
Oh, there's one more thing I had to ask you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
When I was thinking about doing the picture clue,
Mm-hmm.
now one time I said I was going to say something like, okay, the words have been taken from some of the books that we've read, and I was going to like say, okay, from Noisy Nora, Peter's Chair, and so forth. But then some of my clues go back to, oh, Noisy Nora, so and so and so and so. So should I still do that, or
Well,
just
that's a great question, and
just not, because
you can be the judge, but I kind of know. Are you kind of at the end of Unit 1 at this point, or even in between?
Yes, we're- no, we're
okay.
today.
Because I think when the children have heard the books 2 or 3 times, or even a 4th time, then you can say, oh, the next word I'm going to give you is a word that we had in the Noisy Nora book, and they will know what that is.
Okay.
If
So
you're
I
going
don't
to
need
use
to-
if you're going to do a word after one reading, then I might show the book, because I want to get their minds in the context of the book. And I think after one reading, if I say Noisy Nora, I mean, they probably wouldn't remember Noisy Nora because it's that book. But in general, they might not. So I might hold the book up in that case. But
Okay.
after they've heard the stories 3 or 4 times,
it's not necessary for me to say
not unless
from Noisy Nora, from
not
Peter's
unless
Chair.
you think that when you say Noisy Nora, Peter's Chair, they will think, huh, what book was that?
Okay.
And I know they know those stories. So,
Mhm. Oh, yes.
So I don't think it'll be necessary.
5 green and speckled frogs sitting on a speckled log, eating the most delicious bugs. Yum, yum. One jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool, and that left 4 green speckled frogs. 4 green and speckled frogs sitting on a speckled log, eating the most delicious bugs. Yum, yum. One jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool, and that left 3 green and speckled frogs sitting on a speckled log, eating the most delicious bugs. Yum, yum. One jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool. That left 2. Let's count them. 1, 2. So there's 2 green speckled frogs left. 2 green and speckled frogs sitting on a speckled log, eating the most delicious bugs. Yum, yum. I don't see anybody rubbing their tummy. Yum, yum. One jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool, and that left 1 green speckled frog. 1 green speckled frog sitting on a speckled log, eating the most delicious bugs. Yum, yum. One jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool, and that left none. That left none. So we have rhyming words in this poem. We have log and frog. We have cool and pool. Cool and pool. Frog and log. Now we're going to put them back safely into their container. Let's make sure that we have all our frogs. I hope one didn't jump off onto the grass. We better count them and see that we have all our frogs together. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have all our green speckled frogs? Yes, we do. We have them safely, don't we? In the cool pool. The cool blue pool. The first picture is a picture of small glass balls. We use them in a game. Noisy Nora had a whole container of these and she dumped them on the floor. What are they? Marbles. What are they? Marbles. You are absolutely right. They are marbles. Beautiful, beautiful marbles. Some of them are big, some of them are little.
They're green.
Marbles. They're different colors.
Big ones.
Some are big.
Got some big ones.
Did we use marbles in this class?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
We did marble paint.
Marble painting. Correct.
I did it.
The next picture we have is a picture of a toy.
I did.
Jordan,
Got coffee.
it's a picture of a toy.
Miss Bonnie.
It's a picture of a toy. And it's usually diamond shaped. It's on a frame. It has a long string attached to it. And on a windy day, we can really use it. It is a kite. And in Noisy Nora,
He took the brother's kite.
Noisy Nora took the brother's kite and ran down the stairs with it. You see how it's diamond, I meant to say diamond shape. Diamond shape.
Ooh, orange.
With all the beautiful rainbow colors.
Blue and purple. I got
Beautiful.
diamond.
Very beautiful. Okay. The next picture we have, it's a, listen to my clues. Listen to my clues. A bushy plant. A bushy plant. It's usually green. People have it outside their houses. In Noisy Nora, Dad went outside and he looked behind it because he thought Nora was hiding behind it. It is called a
Bush.
shrub. Shrub. This is a really big, this picture is a big shrub.
Oh, big.
This is a big shrub. Could I hear you say that word?
Big
Shrub. Shrub, yes. Shrub. A big shrub. Remember Noisy Nora's father went outside?
What is that? Yes.
Those are different plants too. It's outside in a yard.
I have a shrub at my house.
Okay.
It's next to my other friend's house.
Shrubs?
Yes.
Okay. This picture is something that we see at the malls. Moving stairs. It can go up. You can go down.
Escalator. Escalator.
And in Corduroy was in the toy department. When he got on this thing, he went all the way up to the The furniture department. It's called what?
Furniture for time.
What did he get on?
Escalator.
He got on the escalator. Escalator. You see them at Holyoke Mall has escalators. Escalators. Your other grandma went on the escalators too? And you need to stand on them. Not run up and down the escalators. That's not safe to do. The next picture. Oh, this was also in Corduroy. When he got up to the top and was in the furniture department, he thought he was where? In a where? A palace. A palace. Here's a picture of a beautiful palace. Do you see all that gold in that palace? The gold furniture, the gold ornaments. Who usually lives in a palace? Who? The queens and the kings usually live in the palaces. Beautiful, isn't it? A palace has many, many, many rooms. Many, many, many. Me either. I've never seen a palace, but I would like to see one too, Ayana. I would be right with you. I would like to see that too. In the book Corduroy, we can have a picture of this. But it is a small light that you can carry in your hand. The night watchman had it in Corduroy. What is it called? It's a flashlight. This is a red one. I have a yellow one. You have a flashlight? All houses should have flashlights. All flashlights. I can only hear one person at a time. I can only hear one person. Jeanette, Albert, Jeanette, we need to listen. We need to listen. The next picture is a piece of clothing. It's a type of pants, and the top is covered, your chest is covered because the material goes up here. They have shoulder straps on here. Corduroy wears them.
And Kiara's baby.
And it's called overalls. Some of you children wear overalls to school. I've seen them. I've seen the overalls. Overalls. This next picture is a musical instrument. Put your hands down and listen to my clues, please. Listen to the clues. It's a musical instrument, and you have to blow into it to make the sounds. And ooga boonga, Grandpa played it to try to keep baby Louise from crying, but it didn't work. It's called a harmonica. Baby Louise was not soothed by that harmonica. She didn't want to hear it, did she? She did not want to hear that. Harmonica. Let me hear everybody say harmonica. You know what? You said that in unison. Harmonica. And in this one, it has a high seat. There's a tray that goes around it. It's used for babies, and mom feeds baby. It is called a high chair. We have a high chair over in dramatic play. High chair. Well, give yourselves a hand because you did really well. That was so good.
Whether you stuck to the plan or added it or changed anything?
I pretty much stuck to it till the ending. And I changed it because I felt they were getting a little jumpy. And we needed to get up and move around a bit.
Right. From what I could see, it looked like it went well. The children were very focused and very involved. And, you know, when you told me you were going to do all of those word clues for all those words, I thought, well, okay, that's a lot of words. And I've never seen in another classroom where someone's been able to do so many words. But they were very focused.
I was kind of surprised. We've done it before, and we've done like maybe 4 or 5. But this was like 9 this time.
Yes.
And I think maybe I could have gone some more.
But
I didn't really want to push it.
You never want to push it, yes, right.
I'd leave them screaming
That's
for
right.
more, you know.
Right. Well,
So
they
I just did the 9.
Yeah, well,
But they were focused, and they got the clues, and they related them to the books that we've read. So that was really great.
Anything else that you wanted to comment on in terms of anything you'd like anything about today or anything that you would like to tell a teacher who's beginning to use OWL? You're new to OWL.
Yes.
This is your first year, about your 5th week. You're a very experienced teacher, but this is new.
Very new.
So in terms of this component, how are you how are you finding it? Is a couple questions, and I'll try not to knock my paper around. But I'm sure you always sang with children and always did movement and poems. So how is this different, if it is, from what you always did?
I think mostly the focus on how you present things
Okay.
and the focus on the vocabulary itself.
Okay.
And actually maybe extending vocabulary into like everyday conversation or walk around the room conversation, just doing most of
A little more
that.
with that.
And just
And
the
had-
form and presentation itself, I think is different.
A little more instructional, or
I think it's more instructional.
okay. Okay.
I think it's more instructional.
You probably
And
always did.
repetition, which is better.
Okay.
You're repeating, but it's not always in the same manner. You're repeating like book 1, 2, 3 readings, but you're not doing it the same way each reading. So your emphasis is going to be on different aspects throughout. So that's
So the stories,
different.
that's
different
different.
thing.
Yeah, it's different for all of us
Different thing,
than how
yeah.
we read. And for me too, in terms of songs we're playing letters, I mean, we always did rhyme. I'm sure you always did rhyme, but this is just a little more explicit in terms of taking our pieces off and saying log and frog. And I never used to do that.
No, me either.
But just a little bit more explicit, which I think helps children develop skill
Yes,
faster,
yes,
probably. So
yes,
okay.
Because they really, and when I started, I was a little bit anxious. I'm saying, oh, this is different. Am I going to be able to do this? But as week on, I was more comfortable with it.
Good.
So it's not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of work involved, but
In the
it's
flannel
not
pieces.
right,
And,
right, things like that. But it's not
Good,
difficult at
good.
all.
And also year one, I mean, once you have a lot of the flannel board pieces, it's not so, and the letters we use are certain, but it is a lot of prep at first to get geared up.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
the preparation
get to
part.
geared up, yeah.
Yeah, that's the main
Right.
thing right
Yeah,
there. But
time,
other than
time,
that,
time.
I'm enjoying it.
Let's talk about the songs, wordplay, and letters first. And as you know, in the teacher's guide, there's a suggested sequence for the song or word poems and literacy skills. So why don't we go over first the individual things you plan to do today? Then let's talk about the sequence and why.
Okay.
I know you have outdoor time before
Yes,
songs,
right.
wordplay, and letters, so it probably influences what you start with.
Right.
Okay, so tell me what you have on the list first.
If you're happy and you know it,
Okay.
we're going to be doing, and then we're going to be doing the story Golden Bear, and we'll
Okay.
be chiming in with the rhyming words.
Okay.
Then we are doing Down by the Bay, and we are doing new animals and new rhymes in it, which we've just started a few days ago.
Okay.
And then we're going to try the bingo. We're going to rearrange it, and
I'm so glad you're going to do that.
yes, and this is something new we have never done before.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll see how it goes
Okay,
today.
Great, great. Okay, now you're going to start with If You're Happy and You Know It, because it sort of gets them engaged.
It gets them engaged, and
okay,
yeah.
Okay, and then after that, are you going to do the book next?
The book next,
Okay,
yes.
All right. Well, let's talk about that just a little bit. This will help other teachers because it's, as I go from classroom to classroom, there are always questions about this chiming in stuff.
Okay.
And some people are pausing quite a long time for that second rhyming word. And when some groups maybe they aren't that familiar with the book, there's a very long pause. And I know I've heard you read books before, and you don't really stop. You begin the word, and they kind of chime in. So they chime in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, how many times have your children heard the book?
This book probably, we've done it twice.
Okay. This year. Now,
This
your
year.
children
All returnees except for 3.
Okay, so, and you did Unit 2 last year. You did
Yes,
Units
we did
1 and
2,
2. So
exactly.
they are probably more familiar than just with a couple of readings.
Right.
Okay. So do you expect them to jump in pretty quickly once you start the second word of a rhyme pair?
Yes, yeah.
And even more of the text?
Yeah, the first time going through, not so much. I maybe have 1 or 2 children who will be able to chime in right away. But I do just give that tiny little pause, or even the first sound of the
Good.
word.
As a clue, yeah.
Yep.
That's great. That's a good way to do it. And then after you do the first reading,
are you going to go back and highlight, say, a page or two where the rhyming words are and ask them if they can think of others?
Yes, I'd like to try
Okay,
to do some
okay.
generating, some chiming,
Okay.
some rhyming words.
Okay, now have they done much of that yet, or is this kind of new for them?
Kind of new for them.
Okay.
This year.
Okay.
Last
Okay.
year we did it.
Some,
We did
yeah,
it some.
okay.
So
Okay, so if you give 2 words that rhyme and ask if they can think another one and they don't, you can give your own example.
Examples, exactly.
And I think that's another thing teachers sometimes, it's in the plan book to ask, ask children to think of other
Right.
words, and so they think, well, I'm supposed to ask the children, and if they don't, I wait a long time, or I'm just not going to do that because they're not ready.
Right, right.
But if you give a few examples, and then children gradually, they really
Gradually,
gradually.
oh, yes.
Yeah, so that's a good way to do it. Okay, great. So that's the predictable textbook you're going to use and the rhyming around it. And then I forget what you said you're going to do next. Down by the Bay, I guess?
Down by the Bay,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Okay. Now with that one, I don't know that I've seen you do this. You probably sing the song and put one thing up and take it down. Okay. And then do you do any review at the end to really highlight the rhyming words?
yes,
there?
I do. I put the animals back up, and then we just go over the rhyming words.
Good, good.
So
Just that little bit of highlighting makes the rhyming much more explicit. I think when children sing a song, they're so accustomed to the words that, they know it rhymes, but there's not that little bit of different level of really thinking about the rhymes.
Right.
So doing
Right, and I
the
always
focus-
review it. I do have some children who will, right after we do it the first time, who will say those are rhyming words. But I always like to go back and
Yeah.
review it for all the children.
Sure. Yeah, great. Okay. And then the bingo, change it and rearrange it. Okay. Now, your children did this a little bit last year, I know some of them. So
Yes.
tell me what's happening now with the bingo. When you put up the letters, are they pretty much naming them with
They're
you?
pretty much naming them with
Okay,
me, yes.
okay.
And, almost all the children
Really?
are
Okay.
getting the B, the I, the N, G, O.
Okay.
And then we just started to do the change it, where we take the letter B off and we put up another letter to make a new word.
Okay.
And a lot of times, if I put the letter up, they're already saying tingo, singo. They're already.
boy.
So I think it's time to take time for the next step.
So this is the first time you're going to do the rearrange
This
it.
is the
So
first
try to
time.
get a little word or something. Well, that'll
Yes.
be interesting to see. You might have to read the words. If you have to read the words and sound them out, that's fine.
Right.
Because they might not know
Which
what
I
to
think
do, but
I-
that's a start.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then they'll be doing that
Right.
lickety split before you know
No,
it.
right.
Now, I wanted to ask you, in terms of when you're putting the letters up for the original, for the bingo, B-I-N-G-O, there's a suggestion in the teacher's guide of, the first letter is, the second letter
letter, the
is. Is
ordinal
that
number.
kind of too laborious now for you to, because sometimes children are already yelling out I-N-G-O.
Which is exactly what they're
Are they?
doing.
Okay,
Yes.
I thought
But
they were.
in the beginning, and I still do it, but they know the letters of bingo,
Okay.
so they are
Okay.
shouting them, and even in the change it, they know those letters.
Okay.
So they're
Okay.
shouting those out
Okay.
even before I can say the
Okay.
word.
So maybe if you put the letters up just kind of quickly, if they're going to name them anyway, and then the ordinal words of the first, then just kind of review afterwards
Afterwards.
and not try to say the first letter
Letter.
is and they're already on G and you're
Right.
only putting up I. So you
Right.
can do because the ordinal words that takes a little while longer for children
Yes.
to get that. So
Yes, I
you
think
can
so.
do that in a different way. Okay, that sounds great. Now the other thing I wanted to just talk with you a little bit about. I'm going to be watching, and of course, Joyce, your assistant, is
Yes.
sitting in the circle,
Yes.
and your coach is there today.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about the rubrics after this. We'll see what we can say about some children when we talk later, based on some of the activities. But I always like to think about what opportunities these activities really provide. So it seems to me, certainly rhyme, we have an opportunity here to observe even generation of
Of
rhyme.
rhymes, yes.
And I always find it hard in a group, though, because one child will get going, or I never know
Yes.
exactly who said what, but you
Yes.
know your children, and we probably can kind of keep track of that. So we'll want to really, we'll talk about rhyme and what kids are doing,
Okay.
if we can. And then the letter naming, that probably will be harder still. If everyone is naming, then you don't know whether a couple wouldn't have unless they heard somebody else. But we can get a sense.
Sense of-
Usually the stronger voices, you at
Exactly.
least know. So we'll have some letter naming.
And it'll be interesting here also. I didn't know whether you would hold the book up and say, oh, now what's the name of our book? And
Yes.
see, I mean, if you want to, and
Yes.
see who remembers that kind of thing. So it looks like it's, letter naming and rhyming we'll keep our eye on.
I
So-
also have a little girl, when I read the illustrator's name, she makes a reference to Noisy Nora and says Nora Dora rhyming words.
Oh, because Isadora. Okay,
Yes.
so they're
So-
jumping in with others.
So there
okay.
she's, yes. So she will
Okay.
do that today, I'm sure.
Good. Well, great. All right. So that's all set for Songs, We're Playing Letters.
If we could go back
Sure.
with the Happy and You Know It, we've added some things into
Okay.
To take them from our stories. In Peter's chair, we used surprised for when his mother was behind the curtain. So just to give it a little more connection.
Good.
And we also do sobbing and wailing, like Baby Louise.
If you're sad and you know
Right.
it. Okay, wonderful.
So we-
and then how do you make that connection? I mean, do they know at this point because you've done it which books, or do you refer to the book?
In the beginning, I refer to the
Okay,
books when I say,
okay.
let's, we're going to sing it a
Okay.
new way. I will have the book, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
And then we'll,
Okay,
we'll do it.
great.
But we've been doing it for a while, so.
Okay, picking up emotions and then
yes.
words. Wonderful, terrific. Okay, and did you say that the particular animals in the Down by the Bay, that some of these are new?
Yes.
You haven't been doing
the pig
those?
in the wig, the cat in the
Okay.
hat, and the dog kissing the frog.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, sounds great.
If you're sad and you know it well like this, wah, wah, wah. If you're sad and you know it well like this, wah, wah, wah. If you're sad and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're sad and you know it well like this, wah, wah, wah. If you're sad and you know it, sob like this. If you're sad and you know it, sob like this. If you're sad and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're sad and you know it, sob like this. If you're surprised and you know it, go like this. If you're surprised and you know it, go like this. If you're surprised and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're surprised and you know it, go like this. Good job. We did a few new things in our song. We did wailing and sobbing. Who remembers? Why would we have done that? Who was wailing and sobbing in one of our stories?
Baby Louise.
Baby Louise, she was wailing and sobbing when her brother Daniel wasn't around. And then we did surprised, right?
Hey.
And do you remember why we did surprise?
Because Peter whistled for Willie.
And Whistle for Willie, his mom and dad were surprised that he could whistle.
Whistle.
And also in Peter's chair, you remember when he was hiding behind the curtain? Was he really there? No. And when the mom turned the curtain away, he wasn't there. She was surprised.
Her knicker.
Only his sneakers were there. He was a little rascal, right? Playing tricks on his mom. Yes, he was.
And Noisy Nora.
And Noisy Nora? Someone was surprised in Noisy Nora? Yeah? Who was surprised in Noisy Nora?
Her mom and dad when her thumb and back.
Very good. That's right. You're right. When she came back, they were so surprised she came back. They were happy. The title of our story is
Golden Bear, Golden Bear.
Golden Bear. The author is Ruth Young, and the illustrator is Rachel Isadora.
Noisy Nora.
Dora and Nora, and Laura and Tora. Those are all rhyming words, huh?
Nora.
Mora.
I know.
Yes.
I said Mora.
Mora. There's another one.
Like Laura and Lauren rhyme.
Yes, very good. All right, let's see if we can hear our rhyming words in the story. Golden bear, I have seen him everywhere. Dancing up the golden stairs. rocking in my rocking chair, playing on the violin, balanced underneath my chin, talking on the telephone with me when I'm all
Mrs. Phone and phone.
We are pirates in the tub, yo ho ho, scrub, scrub, scrub. We see clouds that look like fish. First start out, make a wish.
Seeds and weeds.
Seeds and weeds, yep, those are right words. Dreaming, dreaming, dreams at night, golden bear tucked in tight. The end. You know, I would like to go back and look through our story. And on this page, we have the rhyming words bug and rug. Can anyone think of words that rhyme with bug and rug? Linda.
I said bug. Rhyming.
Oh, I have one. How about mug,
I said bug.
rug, bug,
Tug.
tug,
Bug.
hug,
Hug. He's a bug.
bug, hug, tug, mug,
Dug.
dug. Very nice. You guys got a lot of words that
Mug.
rhyme.
Mug.
Can we look at another page?
Mug.
Oh, mug. Let's look at another page and see if we can think of any other words.
You said the bug. Yep, you did. You said the bug. You said the bug.
Look at this. Dancing up the golden stair, rocking in my rocking chair.
Chair and bear.
Chair.
Rhyming words.
Those are rhyming words. Stair, chair, bear, hair,
Tear.
tear. Well, the tear's not really a word, but it is it does rhyme with
That
it.
means you're breaking.
Oh, tear, tear, chair,
Pear.
hair. Very nice. Hair,
Pear.
hair, pear. Those are
Rhyming
words.
words. Down by the bay.
Down by the bay. Are you ready? Okay, the first thing I need to put up is my cool and pool are rhyming rules. Words and fool. This is my
Watermelon.
bay where the melons grow. Back to my home I dare not go. Okay, are you ready? Remember, we have our new animals. Okay? You can't see. I'll put them up here high, okay? So you can see, Linda. Are you ready? Down by the bay where the watermelons grow. Back to my home I dare not go. For if I do, my mother would say, did you ever see a llama eating his pajamas? Down by the bay, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow. Back to my home I dare not go. For if I do, my mother will say, did you ever see a fly wearing a tie? Down by the bay, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow. Back to my home I dare not go. For if I do, my mother would say, did you ever see a dog kissing a frog? Down by the bay, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow. Back to my home I dare not go. For if I do, my mother would say, did you ever see a cat wearing a hat? Down by the bay, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow. Back to my home I dare not go. For if I do, my mother would say, did you ever see a pig wearing a wig? Down by the bay. My friends, I want to put my animals back up and go over the rhyming words. Okay?
Pig and wig.
Pig and wig. Our rhyming words. Our rhyming words. And then I'm gonna cat and hat are my rhyming words. And then my dog kissing a frog. Dog, I know it fell off. The dog and frog are the rhyming words.
How about you put the
And then I'm gonna put up my
line in the middle?
and then I'm gonna fly and tie. And our last pair, I'm putting up my llama and pajama. What are the rhyming words? Llama, pajama. Very nice.
Why him eating his baby?
That was silly, huh?
Why him eating his baby?
He's a silly llama. I have to take off our house and our house and mouse. Very good. You guys are just coming up. House? You guys are just coming up with all kinds of rhyming words today, huh? We're gonna do bingo. What do we need? Our farmer who had a dog. Bingo. The first letter I need to put up is B. The second letter I need to put up is I. The third letter I need to put up is N. The fourth letter I need to put up is G. And the last letter I need to put up is O. Okay, remember when I turn a letter over, we're not going to say the letter, we're going to clap, okay? You ready? There was a farmer who had a dog, and Bingo was his name. Oh, B-I-N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name. Oh, there was a farmer who had a dog, Bingo was his name. Oh, I-N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name. Oh, there was a farmer who had a dog, and Bingo was his name. Oh, N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name. Oh, very nice. We're going to turn our letters over. First we have B. Second we have I. Third we have N. Fourth we have G. And fifth we have O. Now, I want to make some new words. I am going to take the letter B away, and I'm going to replace it with the letter S. And I made a new word, singo. If I take the letter S away and I replace it with the letter R, we have Ringo. Ringo. If I take the letter R away and I replace it with the letter W, we have a new word, and it's wingo.
That's a Mexican word. Wingo bingo.
And if I take the W away and I replace it with the letter P, I have a new word, and it's pingo. I dropped one. That's okay. You know what? I want to play something new with you that we've never played before. I'm going to put my letter B back up there. Now, I can take these letters and rearrange them to make new words. I'm going to take my letter G. I'm going to put it first. And then I'm going to take my letter O and put it second. And I made a new word. It's go. Go. If I take my letter G away and I replace it with the letter N, I have another new word. It's no. No. And I can...
No is a bad word. That means you can't have it.
No, well, that's not really a bad word. It doesn't mean you can't have it, but sometimes you have to be told no.
New word.
Now, I'm going to put up one more letter. and I have the letter S. And I made a new word. It's
Bingo.
so.
Wait,
Oh.
my noni sews.
So.
She has a sewing machine in there sewing.
Right, and this is that is so, but that you spell that a different way. You spell that S-E-W, and that's what we did when we sewed the button on. Remember? And let's find out about it.
Soap.
And this is like, so what? That's okay.
Soap.
So, that is in the word soap. You're right.
No.
You guys did a very nice job. Now, it
Soap.
snow. Very
No,
good.
no.
It's time for us to get ready for lunch.
Bow.
Are you ready?
Bow.
Bow. Another rhyming word. Good. I could put up the letter
B.
B. And right, what would I have gotten?
Bingo.
Bow. Just like you said. Bow.
Bingo.
That could be a boy's name, right?
Bingo.
If your name begins with the letter M, you may go line.
Maven Matthew.
Maven Matthew may go line up and wash hands for lunch. If your name begins with the letter J, you may go line up. Jason and Juan may go line up. If your name begins with the letter A, Alana, Ashley, and Andrew. If your name begins with the letter L, Linda's going to line up. If your name begins with the letter C, Caitlin's name begins with C, she's going to line up. And last, if your name begins with the letter R.
Let's talk about the songs, wordplay, and letters.
Okay.
Time first, and what happened with the children, and what you might have been surprised about
Okay.
or not.
If you're happy and you know it, I think that went well. We have been practicing and using the wailing and the sobbing and the surprised. It was nice that everyone joined in today. So I don't think there was anything really special about that song.
Different. It went as you-
It went as it usually goes.
Now let me ask you, if you were going to do that song tomorrow or next week, and the next time you do that song, is it time now to add some more words, you think?
I think it is to
Okay.
go back through the stories, and I think I need to start moving
what
the
you can
kids.
pull out.
Right, pull out and start moving the kids along.
Yeah, because they seem really quite familiar
Yes.
today. So. Okay, and then Golden Bear.
Golden Bear, that went well. They are. I used to do the first reading and then go back and stop with the chiming in, but now, and we've only done this book a few times, that they're already chiming in right on the first.
And they were doing almost the whole text.
Yes.
Now, I was behind the group, so I'm not sure how many children, but it sounded
There were
to
quite
me
a
like
few.
multiple voices.
Yes, there were quite a few
So-
who were reading it, the whole
Almost
text.
everything.
Yes.
Almost everything. I
With me.
noticed that. Yeah. So that's great. Now, has this been at the library, in the library yet for them to
No, it
read?
has
So,
not.
So
It
another
has
week or
not.
so probably we'll be
It will
ready
be,
for
yes.
that. Okay. And then when you went back through and asked them for other rhyming words to go with the pair,
Yes.
I couldn't keep up.
I couldn't either,
Okay.
which we've never had a day like we've had today. They were all generating,
Yeah.
and some of them I don't know where they got some of the rhymes. I know they were bringing them in from other songs that we have done.
But
So-
pear and hair.
Pear and
was
hair.
one that surprised me.
Yep.
I mean, there were several that surprised me. But now you've been building up to this, though.
Yes.
You've been doing this kind of thing, but you had to give more of the ideas, and then just occasionally a child would come up with one.
Right.
And today it was really kind of a flood, which
Right.
is wonderful.
Yes.
Well, let's go back to the very beginning when you
Okay.
put the bingo, when you put the letters
Letters
up.
up.
Okay. And you were putting them up, and children were dictating beyond you.
Yes.
Which you knew sort of they
Yes,
might do.
yep.
Okay. And I was wondering, sort of the next time you do that, if you would do it a little bit differently, like just put them up as they dictated, as opposed to saying the first one, the second one.
Yeah, or could I? I'm wondering if I could ask them, what letter goes first, what letter goes. Have them tell me the letters.
Have them dictate
Still trying to get
from-
bringing
Okay.
in the ordinal. Would
Okay.
that?
Sure, that would be a little different, and you
Okay.
could maybe not put them up until they tell
So-
you. Yeah.
okay.
And that would give them a reason for doing that.
Okay.
Because right now it's sort of that they are naming what you put up,
Yep.
and they're doing that really
Right,
well.
but yes.
Yeah. But the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, the ordinal
I
names,
still
they
think
need
we
a little
need,
more.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do feel
Yeah.
we still need a
Yeah.
little more work on that.
Now, when you substitute the first letter,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're asking them what word, again, I was at the back, and I don't know your children that well, but some children, as soon as they saw that letter, you didn't even have it up there. A couple were already reading it.
Right.
And then others, I wasn't sure. I mean, after it was there, and I mean, they seemed to be attentive. But do you think you have 2 or 3 or 4 who really understand
Yes.
what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Making,
I think you do too.
Yes, making
Yeah.
the letter sound.
Uh-huh,
Yes,
uh-huh.
I do think so.
They might enjoy some letter tiles, say in the puzzle area. You might make a root word, and then just have tiles that they could, like
To
if you
change.
if
Okay.
you made a little triangle,
Yep.
and then you already have printed over here the basic word, and then this is blank, and then you have tiles that they can put there. They can start doing that independently.
Okay.
I bet Linda and Caitlin, I bet they would love it.
Yes.
And they look ready. And then
Yes.
that would give them a chance to keep doing that on their own. And getting better at it, and you mean you need to do it a little more in group because some children
Still need it,
aren't
right.
quite with you, but
Right.
they're ready to really roll on their own with that.
Okay.
And then what do you think of the rearrange the new words when you actually took the letters out?
I was pretty surprised at how well they did.
Now the first one was no, I think, and you had to,
go. I believe it was
yes,
go.
go. That's right.
And
And you had to read that.
And I had to read that. But then I think once we did the second one and got, you know, I know it was no, and then so.
So,
And then we went into with Richard on my grandmother sews, and I had to explain that it was two different,
Yes,
two
that was
different
great.
words and two different meanings.
That's great.
So.
Yeah, and it got a little tricky, but you did say it's spelled differently. But there are 2 words, that one and the sew, and remember we sewed the button.
Right, yep.
And great example of how word meanings come up,
Right.
even in
Oh,
an
yes.
activity when it wasn't designed for that. You might know in the curriculum there are a lot more variations on bingo using different names.
Right. Oh, yes.
And so
With the Peter, so maybe just get ready to go.
Yeah, I think so.
Even though it's
I think
okay.
so. Because
more in the
once they're
second
onto
unit?
this, yes, I would
Okay.
say in a couple of weeks I would
Okay.
try the Peter
right
one.
because we have, and I can take things from the books.
Right.
Okay.
Right, because you have
Yeah,
children that are ready. So
I think I need to start moving them along more than the guide is.
they're probably kind of done with bingo for a while, but the
Right.
strategy in the same
Right.
game, and then giving them a different word to play around with.
Okay.